If you're watching this, that means I finally decided to start my podcast that I've been talking about for years. I have absolutely no plan. So we're going to see how this goes. We're going to see. I like to talk. I can talk to this wall behind me if I wanted to, or that self-tape setup background thing back there if I really wanted to. It's been a long time coming. I was going to do a podcast talking about books that I read, because I read a lot of books, especially like the fun fantasy ones that are kind of like the cool hip thing now, and that didn't happen, so it's totally fine. But then for my birthday, I was like, you know what, this is something I really want to do. So I bought a microphone and I bought a camera, and this whole setup is really cluttered and pushed together right now because I'm filming on a tiny vanity in front of my window. Anyways, my name is Riley. I am an actor, makeup artist, self-proclaimed comedian. If anyone agrees with that, they need a better sense of humor. And I currently live in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, and now I live in LA. I lived in New York City the past year, didn't like it, so I moved across the country because I was like, you know what? Why not? Why not? Anyways, I'm trying out all this podcasting stuff. I actually did use this setup for a callback audition that I had earlier today, which went good, so I'm waiting to hear. I won't hear probably for a week. That's one of the things I don't like about my industry, I think, is the times that it takes for a decision to be made. Like when people are saying, oh, you know, we'll decide this at this time. Sorry, I'm gonna fix my microphone. Anyway, so that's the only aggravating thing about it. Other than that, you know, the massive amount of rejection it's pretty fire. I have learned a lot about myself and just the give me a second. God's trying to tell me not to talk on. I've learned a lot about the industry. I mean, I've been in the industry since I was 14 years old, so I've known about the industry pretty deeply for a long time. But being an actor in it and really committing myself over the past 2-3 years to the film industry as an actor, because I grew up doing theater acting, and then I started doing film acting in college, and then I started really taking it seriously once I graduated. I took it seriously in college, but I'm talking about auditioning and stuff, because when you are a BFA theater performance major, your time doesn't exist. Being in college, like, especially if you really want to, like, be a tryhard, which was me, like, 50% of the time, you don't have a social life. And that's the thing about being a theater major, and I'm sure if you're a theater major and you're watching this, you understand. But I sacrificed some of my grades for my social life, but I still somehow ended up graduating cum laude and in 3 years, so don't really know what that's about, but I did it. And so now I am living the starving artist's dream in Los Angeles, California. And you know what? I do love it. What more could I ask for? Anyways, on the topic of the film industry, I saw the Michael Jackson movie this weekend. Really quick, guys. I just want to give you a little something. Little something. Because I've always loved Michael Jackson growing up. I've loved his music. I think he's phenomenal. Nobody can do it or will do it or has done it like he has. And it's extremely inspiring. It's also been a learning experience for me on how someone who was so great in their industry, how they did it and how they were able to get there. And so I'm kind of starting to apply some of those to my life. And I know I'm not the only one, but I'm gonna play something for you guys. Why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy little Michael Jackson there for you guys. My favorite song, at least at the moment, I mean, there are so many good ones, but right now I'm gonna have to say Heaven Can Wait. That song just does something to my soul. So shout out Michael Jackson. You ain't got no business being gone, bro. No business. Anyways, if you can hear airplanes, it's because I live really close to LAX, okay? I'm really sorry. I've told them plenty of times not to be flying around me when I'm trying to record, but they just have refused to listen to me. So I think I'm gonna have to go down to air traffic control and have a conversation with them, because it's getting to the point where I just can't do it anymore. I've been nice. I've been respectful. I've let them do their thing. But they're not respecting me back. I'll keep you guys updated on that one. But, you know, one thing I really want to do, I want to talk about the dating pool, okay? I want to talk about, now, I'm on 2 different apps, okay? I'm on Hinge and Raya. And while I'm actively looking, I'm also actively avoiding, because what are these men? Like, genuinely, what are these men? What are these men? I don't want Hinge Plus. It's not worth it. Got a rose from somebody. They ain't saying nothing. I'm also extremely picky. This guy said, you ever get Dua Lipa? Genuinely what? I scroll down and I look at their height. As a person who is considered tall in this society, I also want to be with somebody who is tall simply because I like to wear heels. And I don't personally want to be the same height as you or taller than you. Now, if you're Tom Holland and that man, I don't care what anyone says, that man is 6'4". I know he's 5'7", but that man is 6'4". That's a different story. So far, I haven't met my own Tom Holland personally. I would love to, so if you give Tom Holland energy, hit me up, baby. Okay? One thing I don't like about the people on Hinge is they choose to not put all their information up there, and it's like, honey, I'm not looking for anything fun. I'm not looking for anything casual, because one, nothing's really ever actually that casual. Let me speak on that really quick, actually. We'll get back to the Hinge. Is it ever that casual? I mean, yeah, in the beginning when you start off and you're getting to know each other and you're going out and you're doing all the things to get to know each other, decide if you want to date each other, and then one day decide if you're going to get married. Is it ever that casual? Because as a personal empath and somebody who is very deeply emotional about things, it's never really been that casual to me. Okay? At one point, I wanted it to be, because at one point when I was in college and I was going out and I was going on dates and I was meeting all these different guys and people, and these are the best years of my life, and and I should have fun, and I should go out and meet people and do all the things. But like at the end of the day, when you allow stuff to be so casual that is so deep and is considered deep and intimate, it's not that casual. And as a personal believer in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that stuff is meant for something so intimate. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to go down that road. I'm really okay. And so it's just unrewarding thing to date casually. Like, what do you mean we're going out on dates and we're talking about all these deep things, but it's supposed to be casual? It's not. It's never that casual. And yeah, I'm looking at this one Hinge text that says, hey, I work at some of the nightclubs in LA. Let me know if you would like to go out with me sometime. I am not a big partier myself, so I'm going to be saying no. Sorry. Also, I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but sometimes my self-esteem gets hurt on Hinge. And I'm not trying to be mean, but sometimes it do. It really do. I'm going to choose to be nice about it. Maybe I get to know you and take you on a date. Yeah, that's kind of how you get to know somebody, big dog. I'm gonna choose peace. Okay. You look like the type of woman that men would go to war for. In the age of the year of 2026, men don't go to war over women anymore. Yeah, at one point. And also at one point, they were building cathedrals in these beautiful buildings. And now we are whining and crying about having to pay for a full meal and being gentlemen. Interesting take. It's not actually an interesting take. It's probably the most truest thing I think I could say on this, whatever this is. Guy did a little red flag emoji and said number 2. What am I supposed to take from that? Like, genuinely, what am I supposed to take from that? But it's like, look, this guy put a note on my skydiving picture that is on my Hinge profile and said, because I tandem skydiving, so I was strapped to somebody who has a skydiving license, right? Which, by the way, if you ever want to go skydiving, you 100% should. It's the most amazing thing in the world. It's actually safer to go tandem skydiving than to drive a car, statistically. And this guy said, can you please tell him to get off my girl? I'm sorry, but if he was not attached to me, I would not be here today. If he was not fully strapped on my back so tight that I might as well be fused to this man, I would be dead. Okay? I would not have made it to see another day. You know what? Shout out Connor. That was my skydiving instructor guy. Shout out him. He was awesome. He actually made me feel great because we were talking beforehand and he was like, I've got a little fluffy dog to get home to. And that made me feel really good. Anyways, so yeah, like I said earlier, I almost started a different podcast. This podcast was strictly going to be talking about books that I read, and I read things like Fourth Wing and A Court of Thorns and Roses and Lights Out, and I did read Powerless. I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts and heavily supported it. And then a few months after going to her release for her last book in that series, I found out it was plagiarized from, I think it was The Red Queen. I haven't read The Red Queen. I would like to, but apparently there are literal scenes that are just basically copy and paste. And there's rumors that she maybe used AI to help her write some of this. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really feel great about it. It was a great story. It really was. And I was honestly surprised because me and her are the same age that she was able to do all of that. And apparently there is a really, really good reason that maybe she didn't. But the reason why I am not doing that podcast is, well, number one, the girl that I was going to do it with, we unfortunately had a falling out. I do have love in my heart for her. And I do care about her. And I do think that she is and tries to be a good person. But unfortunately, like all of us, we make choices and decisions that will have worse consequences than we probably thought. I've personally done that. It's come down to I can't fight to keep people around anymore. Because at that point, keeping you in my life is only going to harm me more. And that's something that I have really struggled with and really had to fight for. And Leo Skeppy actually said, I think it was on his podcast, where, you don't walk up and give a homeless person a Birkin bag. Because they're not going to know what it is. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to use it. They don't know what it is. So why would you go and give yourself to somebody who doesn't even understand you and who doesn't even know you or doesn't even understand your value? And I think that falls more into relationships that are romantic relationships, but I think it also falls into the topic of friendships. I have a lot of really great friendships. I've also lost a lot of good friendships. And when it comes down to what happened with those friendships and why we fell out, it wasn't great. And a great friend and a great friendship they won't do that to you. And I saw a video of this girl saying, and I understand it's your first time living, but it's mine too, and I would have never done that. And that's where I've really come to the conclusion of, okay, I'm not being overdramatic. I'm not being heartless. I'm not any of those things. I know what I would do and what I wouldn't do to somebody that I consider my best friend. And that is what I've had to keep reminding myself of, because it's a really hard thing to remind myself of, and that's okay. It makes you selfish in the sense of protecting your heart and protecting your mental health, but it doesn't make you just outright selfish. It doesn't make you outright only ever choosing yourself, but sometimes in this life we have to be selfish, and that's okay. And that's okay. You have to pick and choose when you're selfish, and there is a line and a limit, but for the most part, when it comes down to certain things, we have to be okay with choosing ourselves sometimes. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who are probably like me who don't choose themselves and who don't put themselves first in situations that they should, and to love themselves. And it's a hard thing to learn. It's a hard concept to grasp. It's a hard thing to remind yourself to do in every single situation that is one that's going to hurt you. But you have to do it. I'm going to do what makes me happy. I'm also going to do what I want to do. And like Michael Jackson said, if I'm not here to accept the idea, he going to give it to Prince. Actually, I do have one thing that I want to talk about. Legos. A kid just yelled outside my window because he probably heard me say Legos. If you didn't have Legos growing up, you missed out. One thing that we really did find joy in was Legos. Like, there was just something about Legos and, like, getting your hands into the Legos and just building something, especially when you didn't have the instructions. Now, obviously, when you had the instructions, you were able to create something that you actually couldn't create with your own brain. That's what made it so much fun. But at one point in our lives, we had a Lego table that my dad had built, and it was so awesome, and it was so great. And this Lego table was huge, and we had so many Legos, and a lot of these Legos came from Lego sets that we had gotten over the years that had somehow, one way or another, ended up destroyed. Like, we had this whole sea of Legos. It was just like every Lego set we ever owned, just all together in pieces. And we would get in there, and we would be in there for hours just building stuff. We could go outside and build a fort, but sometimes it was too cold and sometimes it was too hot. And also there were like bugs and snakes and stuff in the woods. So like, we wanted to avoid that and avoid all the like possibilities of dying. We just went in our little basement and built some crap, Some of it was probably questionable, and you would maybe look at us now, if we were kids now, building that kind of stuff and be like, are you sure you don't have mental problems? But at the end of the day, like, it was fun. We had a blast. Like, we definitely built a guillotine one time. But also, like, we were building just whenever we could. Pirate ships and bat caves and all the things. And I will say, too, though, I was kind of aggravated when I was getting the little, like, Lego friends. Because why did they change the little characters? Like, you had the, like, really, like, blocky characters. And then you had Lego friends. And they were just... They want to make everything different, which, whatever. You know what? I digress. I still had fun with them. But it kind of got a little aggravating because I couldn't, like, cross-contaminate, I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't... If I wanted my Lego friend's character to be Batman, I couldn't do that. Crap would look weird. Anyways, no, I love Legos. I've actually considered getting a few sets. I have a friend, who is a big Lego collector, loves her Lego sets, and we joke about it all the time, and it's funny because she jokes about, like, that being her thing because she's pretty sure that she's on the spectrum. I have a really weird thing with fork and spoons, okay? Really weird. I don't like eating with certain spoons and forks, and it's gotta be particular. When she moves, she, like, bubble wraps her Lego sets. And it's a pretty like an interesting thing to see, because there were times when we just like our Lego sets just all ended up cross-contaminated in one big ocean of just bricks that if they went on the ground and you stepped on, I mean, that was like a rebirth for your soul. That was like a, 1800 torture session. I mean, it was bad. If you've ever stepped on a Lego, you know what I'm talking about. I've stepped on a lot. You know what I stepped on that was even worse? I don't know if anyone remembers this. There was these things called, like, me and my brother called them Beodazzlers. They were like this little rhinestone. They had like 4 prongs, and basically you would like put them in this little thing. You would clamp them onto your clothes so you could bedazzle your clothes. But the problem is I spilled all of them in my room. And they would all end up with their little prongs facing the ceiling, and you get stuck in your foot, and then your foot would become bedazzled. Not by choice, and definitely not out of joy. Like, you would say some words that got you in trouble with mama. You know what I mean? A Lego would just hurt. A Lego was just pain. I actually have a little letter. It's right there. You can see it. From my youngest brother when I went off to college, and I've kept it. It's like my favorite letter that I think I've ever gotten. And he talks about the Beodazzlers in there and getting them stuck in our foot. I can laugh at it now. I was absolutely not laughing back then, but I can laugh now. So I'm the oldest of 3, and I have 2 brothers. The middle child just recently graduated college and is actually on the way to go work at a ranch in Oregon. I still don't believe that state exists. It's the same with Idaho. In my mind, they don't exist, but they're there, and they're on the map. I learned about them in geography. I just have a hard time believing that, like, people live there. Same with, like, Wyoming. There ain't nothing in Wyoming. I did a cross-country road trip this year when I was moving to LA. It was a ton of fun. If you want to like see the vlogs from it, they're all on my Instagram and TikTok. And I did it with one of my best friends, Luke, and he is an influencer himself. Maybe one day I'll have him on here. Maybe one day. But he and I did a cross-country road trip, and there were times where we were just going through areas of certain states, and especially South Dakota and Wyoming. Dakota, I know there's people in South Dakota. I've seen them. I rarely saw any people in Wyoming. Barely. We spent 9.5 hours driving through that state in one day. I mean, there's just like nothing. Bunch of oil rigs out there, but nothing. Well, especially when you're riding through there and you're getting low on gas, that's when it gets scary. But when you're just riding and looking around and praying that you'll make it to a gas station, it gets a little bit scary. But there's nothing. I mean, it was just like flat. And then way in the horizon, you had a little bit of mountains. I mean, it looked like you was on the moon. That's why they call that big sky, because it's so flat and empty. It's just the sky. I'm surprised I couldn't see like China from there or Australia, because I mean there just wasn't anything. Maybe I need better eyesight and I could have seen China or Australia. But I had a lot of fun though. It was a really good experience. Got to see a ton of places that I low-key never thought I would see. I was originally not gonna do it. I really was gonna fly out and ship my car. And then he was like, my friend Luke, he said, Riley, I'm just trying to get experiences. Like, I'll make some more money. And I was like, you know what? You're right. But looking back now, I have rent to pay. Homegirl got some bills. And I don't regret it for a second. I would do all of that over again. It was so much fun. It was a blast. If you ever are considering driving across the country, I would highly, 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 highly suggest that. And I did the northern route. So we went from New York, Pennsylvania, through Ohio, Illinois, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, in California. I really do want to go back to Arizona. I want to go to Tombstone really bad. I want to go see Tombstone. I love the movie about Tombstone and all the history and everything. I actually know somebody from there who went to high school in Tombstone, and they were like, dude, like, why do you want to go there? I went to high school there. There's nothing there. I was like, well, yeah, it's because you went to high school there. I would look you dead in the face and tell you there wasn't nothing in South Carolina, but it's because I grew up there. I went and moved out to New York City. Well, even moving to like living in Auburn, because I went to college at Auburn. I mean, that was just, I don't even want to say a culture shock. That was a lot at first. And then you moved to New York City. And I grew up on like, this sounds like a lot, but when you live in South Carolina, especially like when you're buying land and building a house like 20 years ago, it's not as much as it would be now. I mean, like, I grew up on 50 acres. I mean, I could barely see the road that I lived off of from my house. And so it was great though, because I mean, we had just trees and land. I'm also now realizing that the more I talk about the South, the more southern the South. It comes and goes, especially when I'm not paying attention. But we had so much out there. I remember one time there was a tornado, hurricane, one of the two, and the middle child, shout out the middle children out there, y'all definitely the reason why all of our parents have gray hairs earlier, and they lost 5 years every year. But the middle child of the group, he really wanted to like parachute or parasail, or I really don't even know what you want to call it, during a hurricane. So we took a tent, tied some rope up to the tent, and he tied it around his waist. He was like, yeah, the wind's going to catch the tent, and it's going to create a little parachute, and it's just going to drag me. Now imagine if it really would have done that. I mean, it definitely did. Don't get me wrong. It didn't take him too far. But imagine if it didn't and he just like went out and then went into space, you know? We would have never seen him again, I don't think. I think he would have been gone for good. Being homeschooled toughened us up. I mean, the last 3 years of high school, I did end up going to a small private school, like really small. I graduated with 19 other kids, and it was tiny. Might as well have stayed homeschooled. But it gave me the social aspect that I was really craving and needing when I was like 14 and 15, because I barely had any. I did competitive cheerleading, but a lot of those girls all went to high school together and like middle school together, so they all knew each other and they were all friends. So like they didn't want to hang out with a weird homeschool kid whose mom was the coach, you know? It was the whole thing. I'm glad I was homeschooled. We just like played outside. We built Legos. I would be playing with my Barbies and my American Girl dolls, like the whole thing. And so I'm really thankful for it. Now I do remember a little bit of daycare when my mom was going back to work as a nurse, and she sent us to daycare. I hated it. We all hated it. Even my mom. She wanted to be around her little kids. When I went to high school, for whatever reason at the time, I really thought, golly, it would be a great idea if I was just blonde. I would like you to recount in your memory every time you've heard someone say that and tell me if it ever turned out great for them. Okay, I want you to tell me, because let me tell you right now, it did not turn out great for me. I'll show you some pictures when I was blonde-headed. This is from January 26, 2019, so this is 7 years ago. I was actually going to the school pageant that day, and so yeah, here's a picture of me at said pageant that I did proceed to go and win. Please ignore how dirty my phone screen is. But yeah, I was blonde. I will never go blonde again. I like my hair. We've had some experiencing with the hair. I was a very dark red brown. So one of my hairstylist friends who was a hairstylist, she used to call me Cherry Cola, because that's about what it was. I recently dyed my hair black. Yeah, so I don't think I'll ever go back. I like it. If for whatever reason you're thinking of dyeing your hair blonde, I want you to go look in the mirror and take a really good long look at yourself and say, how would I look with scarecrow hair? Because you think that stuff's not about to turn to straight hay, straw, grass? Honey, I had to chop it off at my shoulders because of how damaged my hair was, okay? Okay. Also, if you have box down your hair, good luck. We're going to go into a segment, Q&A segment. Okay. Hopefully one day these will be questions from the viewers, but these are questions from the internet because there are currently no viewers. And I'm currently just doing this on hopes and dreams and coffee and a slight will to live. How many unposted TikTok drafts do I have? Let's take a look, actually. Michael Jackson. I actually currently have a video that's like low-key popping off right now. And it is a Michael Jackson one. I currently have 51 TikTok drafts unposted. And you know, they probably never are going to see the light of day. Maybe one day they will. What movie can I recite every line to? Ooh, I can definitely recite a lot of lines from a lot of the Harry Potter movies, specifically the first and second one. For sure, no doubt about it. Also, I can recite pretty much the entire episode of Stoner Cats. And if you haven't seen Stoner Cats, it's on YouTube. It's a 40-minute episode. Go watch it. It's an NFT, but they actually took somebody, whoever they are, I would kiss you on the forehead, took all the NFT episodes and put them together, and it's just one big episode. I can recite a lot from that. I've seen it many times. It's great. What is the last photo in my camera roll? What is the last photo in my camera roll? I feel like it's a screenshot. It is. It is my search page, which is all Michael Jackson currently. He has no business being dead, and I'll say it again. Applehead. Anyways, what is my most repeated movie quote or phrase? If I say something and they don't hear me, I just go, is my mic on? Can we get a mic check on my mic? Is my mic on? No? Okay. I'll also say edit that out. If something happens and I'm just like, I say edit that out. Movie quotes. Or I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll say that. I'll say, it really just depends on the situation. I'll call just about anything. What was your favorite children's book? Now, I have a couple of like actual children's books. The Hungry Caterpillar was a great one. A lot of things by Dr. Seuss. My mom really loved Dr. Seuss, so we read a lot of Dr. Seuss. Goodnight Moon was a good one. But I will say when I got older and my reading developed a little bit, it's still underdeveloped. I don't know what's going on in my brain. It's just, I'll go to read something, and also if I'm like reading out loud, you might as well think that I'm reading some newfound alien language that we founded 2,000 years ago from a UFO we recently just dug up, and they had a book, and I was the only one able to read it. That's what it sounds like sometimes. And you know, I'm trying to get better at it, I really am, but dude, reading's hard. Like, looking at words, a lot of words, making them make sense in your brain, and then proceeding to repeat that out loud. That's just not easy for me. I just can't find that easy. But one book or series, it was really a series of books that I really, really loved growing up, was The Hardy Boys. And I know there's probably people like, oh yeah, but what about Nancy Drew? I was jealous of Nancy Drew, okay? I was so in love with the Hardy Boys that when she would pop up, consider me not finishing that book. Because what are you doing, my man? Both of them, actually. My men. Thank you. Those are my boo things. Let me catch you on sight, Nancy Drew. Let me catch you. Let me catch you. I'm going to show you a mystery to solve. Some clues to find. It's going to be my fist. That's how I felt about Nancy Drew. No hate to the writer, which, who did write Nancy Drew? Actually, let's find out. This is when my podcast gets bigger, I'm going to be like, hey, production, can you search up who wrote Nancy Drew? Carolyn Keene. No hate to you, Queen. Who wrote the Hardy Boys? I used to know. Edward Straightmeyer? They were created by Edward Straightmeyer. Mayer, I don't know. The novels were written by a series of ghostwriters under the pseudonym Franklin W. Dixon. That is a name I recognize, and that's obviously the name that he used. I didn't know that it was a ghostwriter and other ghostwriters. But I loved the Hardy Boys so much. They were great. I like to solve my own little cases, you know? I said if I didn't have the passion, drive, and desire to be in the film industry, I would 100% be a detective or a criminal investigator or personal investigator or whatever they're called. And because I'm also really good at escape rooms. I don't really know if that adds to it, but I am. And so I find that I would probably be really good and I'd find a career in that. So I've been sitting here talking for like an hour. And I do need to go to the gym and, get my life together just a little bit instead of just talking to a camera and making a podcast that currently has no viewers. So thank you for joining me on this episode of I Don't Currently Have a Name Yet. If you watched this for whatever reason, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Shout out. Have a great day. Follow your dreams. Yeah. Because what else are you going to do? Die? You can do that one day. We'll do that one day. Anyways, much love. Peace, love, Michael Jackson. Bye.